Everyone, welcome to our StreamYard. I'm Kenji Oshima. I use he, him, his pronouns, and I'm a member of the LGBTQIA+ group at OakLife Church. Our goal in our group is to create a community of LGBTQIA+ Christians and/or those who are seeking to learn and thrive at these intersectionalities. Our faith backgrounds are as diverse as we are. And while our focus is Christian, we welcome anyone on a spiritual path. We meet weekly in a co-facilitation model with different folks who take turns leading the group on different weeks. We're a tight-knit community where people know each other and love each other. Our activities range from group discussions about faith, queerness, life, purpose, the intersectionality of all these issues, bringing all of who we are. We talk about differing topics from week to week, including fun activities. We do events, we bring in speakers, and we love to be silly. It's all around spiritual conversations and helping also put on special events like this one for Pride. If you identify as an LGBTQIA+ person and any of this sounds interesting to you, I highly encourage you to sign up through oaklifechurch.com. We'll put the sign up in the chat. We meet every Thursday at 7:30 p.m., currently growing strong on Zoom, and we really hope to see you there. Welcome. I hope you enjoy our night.
All right, and I am Say.
Wow, what an introduction. Thank you, Kenji.
Good job, Kenji.
Cheers.
All right. I'm Say. I go by they, them, theirs pronouns. And we'll actually hear from 4 speakers tonight, so that's very exciting. And we're going to actually kick things off with a brief video that features some of our group members. Each speaker will share with us about their faith journey. And if you have any questions for them, you get to post them in the YouTube chat and we'll go ahead and ask them. So if you have a specific question for one of our speakers, go ahead and put their name in front of the question and we'll know to direct it to them. And to kick off, we'd love for you to put in the chat where you're watching from and if you're comfortable, your name as well, because we want to know who's representing, who's in the house. So go ahead and put that in the chat if you're comfortable. If not, that's okay. You can be shy. It's all good. All right. And with that, we're going to go ahead and kick off that video. So I believe, Greg, let's get the party started.
As far as coming out goes, I don't really identify with that terminology, more so a journey of queerness. And I would say that it felt really good and an opportunity to share my authentic self to everyone I've told in those moments along my journey.
So excited. I was so nervous at the same time, panicking, sweating. And, I almost chickened out last minute. But thankfully, there was a lot of alcohol involved, and that helped me come out. And at the end of the day, everyone was crying.
One of my biggest fears in coming out, while I was acknowledging that I was gay, while also having a relationship with God, was that my church family would reject me. That was one of my biggest fears. And I was so afraid that what emotional bond or connection that I could build and have with this community would be destroyed. So for a long time, I decided to stay in my closet while growing in my faith.
I was terrified I'd be judged and attacked by friends, family, and random people before I came out.
I was afraid that coming out would mean losing my family, my friends, and the entire community that I grew up with.
I really felt accepted into this OakLife family, the LGBTQ plus small group, and felt really affirming and loved and just really embraced because they accept me for all of who I am.
When I was able to be accepted for who I am, I felt freedom.
Being out for the last 4 or 5 years, and now being able to be accepted by a queer affirming church has opened up my relationship with God. I feel like I have a greater connection with different people now. Through this small group, I've definitely felt like I'm not alone in being gay and loving God.
It feels like I'm coming home to myself to be accepted for being both queer and Christian.
It felt weird to be accepted because it was so different than the conception of queerness that I grew up with. But others accepting me allowed me to accept myself, knowing that there would be other people walking along with me in my journey.
It felt like I could finally laugh and express without second guessing or overthinking.
Like blessed and lucky I am, and I also want to recognize that not everybody has had that opportunity, and I just want to take this moment from here on out to be that support for those that haven't had that experience, and just want to be there for them. So if that's you out there, know that you are loved and welcomed always.
I love this journey that I'm on. I love to learn new things, what it's like to be gay, queer, and Christian. And I feel like for the first time I can absolutely say I'm alive.
One of the ways I have tried to reconcile my faith while having and accepting my queer identity is that I never stopped loving God, even though I knew and believed that 99.9% of the church felt this way, that being gay was a sin. That I kept going, that I kept believing and didn't lose my faith, though it dwindled and it was hidden. I did not stop believing that there was purpose in God in my life, and through that and the plan that He has, I have found OakLife. So it's pretty great.
I believe in a perfectly good and all-loving God that wants to see me thrive and made me beautiful in their image, especially my queerness. And this conception of God is what showed me that faith can be life-giving and affirming.
Sweet. Hope you all enjoyed that video. We want to give a special shout out to Jenna and Jake, for putting together that awesome video. So thank you so much for that. And I also want to give a shout out to those who put their name and location in the chat. I see Eve in Oakland, and we got Natasha from Oakland. We got Abby from Brentwood. We got Cameron from Oakland, San Diego. We got Jake in the house, Jeannie in Richmond, SF Dan. And of course, anybody else who wants to put your name and location in the chat, if you're comfortable, please go ahead and do that. And with that, I am going to introduce our first speaker of tonight. That is Jennifer. And she goes by she, her, hers pronouns. She joined our OakLife small group at the beginning of the COVID pandemic back in March. And she considers us one of the disguised blessings that was brought to her this year, which is very sweet. Thank you, Jen. That's very kind of you to say. She was born and raised in San Jose, California, and has attended OakLife via Zoom for the last 6 months. Her hopes to find an LGBTQ plus affirming church has been a struggle, but is beyond happy and overjoyed to have landed in the community of OakLife. Jen's a kinky, God-loving stoner and openly gay. I can attest to the stoner part since you hit that pen when we were in small group. And last year was her first Oakland Pride, and is happy to say she's a part of Oakland Pride and OakLife Church during her second. So here's Jen.
Hey everyone, thank you, Say. So I just want to say thank you guys for letting me share this story, one of many, coming out stories that we have in life, and this is just one that I get to share. So I had found my faith before I figured out my sexual identity. I was 16, had a great group of friends in high school, brought me into their youth group, and eventually accepted God and, was baptized. But when I realized I had feelings for other women, I was so scared. I was scared of not being honest with the friends that I had. I was scared of what the church I had just joined would think of me. I was scared that my youth pastor was going to reject me. So I stayed repressed in those really confusing sexual feelings because I knew the church that I was just joining wasn't accepting of that sexual identity. So I graduated high school, started college, found another Christian group, and continued to build my faith and walk with God. But when I did this, what I did was I put myself aside. I let any relationships that I had only become friendships. And that was me deciding and choosing who I was. I felt like I had to choose either to be this God-following person or this gay person. I didn't see a choice where I could be both. And it was a really big internal fight. And after some time, I remember being honest with myself and, it's like, you know what, I'm going to go back to that church from high school. It's probably during like my senior winter break, and then coming to terms with like, it's okay. I'm gay. This is cool. We're going to get through this. Like, this is okay. Sat down for service. Kid you not, it started, and it was about homosexuality and sin in the eyes of the church. And I basically ran scared. I left my chair, walked out to my car, and just cried. I was so scared of going to hell for who I was. I was scared of not knowing who I was yet. I was scared that God would never love me beyond this. So I hid again, and I never went back to that church. Right? And I'm hiding for the third or fourth time now in my life. Who knows? But really, I hid from the church. I didn't want to be half accepted. I didn't want to be seen as less than or as other inside that church community. I felt that the only solution was at that time was to avoid God, not go to church, and just, grow in me. And I had to figure out and accept my identity before I could accept God again. But a part of me never stopped believing that, this church or this group could still exist or could be found. And having a church or a church body was really important to me. I wanted to be openly gay. I wanted to be who I am. I wanted a community that was going to help me grow in my faith, because I wanted fellowship, because I wanted encouragement to grow in God, because I didn't want to be encouraged to change me. I told myself after leaving that high school church, in tears, that, I was going to be a part of a church or a faith that was going to accept me because I finally accepted me. And from the beginning of, my walk with God to now, to today, took me 15 years to land into the lap of OakLife Church. OakLife Church was the first LGBTQ plus affirming church I had ever been to, and 15 years to finally have this blessing of a community. So when I had learned that OakLife had an LGBTQ plus small group via Instagram, very thank you, hip crowd, I had attended a few services in the past, so I knew what OakLife was. I knew that they had an LGBTQ community. I was drawn due to, having that diverse community and having this comfortable atmosphere at OakLife. I really enjoyed that. So I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know if, I don't know, I felt hesitant in starting to join this group. The fact that I didn't know if I was going to be, pushed into having this purity lifestyle, or I was going to be beaten with, these, God against homosexuality Bible verses. I didn't know what I was going to walk into. But since joining this group, this community has really made me feel that I have been accepted and being loved for, having, a God in my life and being gay. I have loved that we have all connected through our journey under this LGBTQ spectrum of life, and that we're all spiritual believers within that. We're not prudes, we're not judgmental, we're completely supportive of each other's journeys. We take different topics of life, we're in the Bible, each week, and just growing in our shared experiences and stories have made OakLife Church such a growing and loving LGBTQ plus community. And I am grateful that this church, has given me the faith that there are others like me out there, some fabulous unicorns that are gay and believers. So I am very excited, and thank you all.
Thank you, Jen. That was awesome. I loved it. I hope everybody watching loved it too. If you have any questions for Jen, feel free to put in the chat, but we actually have one for you, Jen. What are some of the topics discussed in the small group?
There's a couple different questions, different topics that we go over, and they're always different. We've had times where we've gone through our coming out stories. I love those. It could be about our relationship with God. It could be about sex. It could be how we worship. We had a whole discussion around Black Lives Matter. So we're definitely open and honest to any kind of conversations that we as a group would love to have, so long as it's not offensive to anyone. So it's been a wonderful open group.
Awesome. Looks like we don't have any in the chat, but I'll just ask you one last one then. What has made you connect with this group more than others in the past?
Something that I have loved about this group is that we have continued to support each other. We have all had a time to share our coming out stories. We have all identified under this LGBTQ plus umbrella, and what my experiences, hurts or traumas in my past, I have heard that in other stories and other walks of life through those people in this group. So it's great to hear that though we have had struggles, we find community in some of the difficult moments we've had.
That's beautiful. Thanks so much, Jen. That was really, really awesome. I'm seeing some comments in the chat. It's beautiful. And we got Cameron saying, thank you, Jen. Kern Dude 2008 says, go ahead, Jen. And want to say shout outs to Jess Delahencia for being in the house from Oakland, California, Michelle Minahan in Oakland. And then we got Brian in Albany. But hello, everyone, for joining us. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to my co-host here, Kenji.
Marvelous. Thanks so much, Say. What a great host you are. Our next speaker is going to be Nam, who I'm lucky to know from the Gay Asian Pacific Alliance chorus that we're both part of. Nam goes by he, him, his pronouns. He's a gay man who became a Christian this year, just 1 month before the pandemic. He's found a community at OakLife Church that Nam feels not only accepts him, but celebrates his identity. He's so excited to learn everything about being queer and a believer. Thanks, Nam. Bring it on.
Thank you. First things first, can you guys hear me? Can everyone hear me? Okay, got it. Because I have some technical difficulties, but just making sure. Okay, so I just want to start with God, because this is what we all have in common. So 2 years ago, I think I had a depression, and I was to the point where nothing I did brought me joy and happiness, and I was just struggle. No matter what I did, I was still having this void in my heart, and I did not know why. What's wrong with me? So I started to research and look towards those that are on the top of our world, like people like Oprah, Eckhart Tolle, Sadhguru, you name it. And all of them has this sense of peace that I wanted. And that peace has to do with God. All of them has something in common, and that thing was God. So I told myself, this is the one thing that I've never tried out. So I told myself, you know what? I'm going to take that risk, and I'm willing to take a chance. I'm going to start praying every single day. And so I did that for 2 years, and I don't know where, I don't know how, but all of a sudden I became a believer, and all the things suddenly has shifted. I've started to experience miracles, things that I could not explain. I was able to find my community, the LGBTQ community, where I was able to learn what it's like to be gay and Asian and proud. So these were the best years of my life, 2 years. So this year, on the New Year's Eve, I told God that, you know what, God, I think I'm ready to meet like-minded people, the believers, I think I'm ready to find my church, my home. So 1 week later, God revealed to me the church that was perfect for me, and that church was Hillsong. And I will never forget the first time I experienced this. When I came into the church, I witnessed everyone's energy was so peaceful and happy. Like everyone was high on a drug or something. I could not explain to you guys what that was, but everyone was high on life. And I wanted that. Everyone was crying. I was crying. Everyone was singing. I know exactly this is what I was looking for. So around 1 month, I was attending to Bible studies. I was learning, and I discovered that I found myself being 99% fully myself. So you must be wondering, what about that 1%, right? Well, I'm glad you're wondering. I'm glad you're asking, because that 1% was the question that I was dreading behind my mind. What about homosexuality? Can someone tell me, what about homosexuality? What does Bible say about homosexuality? Does God love my kind of people? Does God love me? I had so many questions. I was hungry for knowledge. But I was deep down inside so terrified to ask those questions. Because here I was, I just found a community, yet I was not ready to being rejected again. But you know what? The beauty of having God in your life is that God constantly creating the paths that's open next door. And that's when OakLife, I found OakLife. So the great thing about OakLife is that my friend, who is one of the speakers here, Eric, learned that I just got baptized this January. So we get to, together and talk about the experience. I learned that he's Christian, and he told me about this group full of gay and Christian. And I was like, no, hold on. What? Are you telling me that queer and Christian in one sentence? I had 2 questions. Where and when? I needed to meet that group immediately. So I will never forget the first day I had this silly, naive question towards these 2 couple that I thought they were a couple, but they were actually roommates. Yes, I'm talking to you, Gabby and Jake. I asked them, are you guys queer? And everyone was like burst into laughter. And they said like, yes, we are all queer. Can we tell? Can't you tell? I mean, at that point, I was like, I was pinching myself, like, is that real? Am I experiencing? Am I in this group full of people just like myself and with God? It's surreal to me that how God, because of God, God brought me to this place. And for 5 long months since March, I've learned so many things. We had so many discussions together on what it's like to be gay and queer and to be loved and accepted by God and being okay. So to answer your question, that 1%, I now know. And I am now 100% queer and Christian. Thank you.
Woo! Thank you, Nam. Oh my God. Nam, I just love that about you. I've been lucky to be in a queer theater group with him. It's a queer Asian men's theater group. And Nam always brings such amazing passion to everything he does. Nam, so what's the most powerful thing you've experienced being part of this queer and Christian group? Ruh-roh. Oh.
Okay, could you ask again? I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, no worries. What's the most powerful thing you've experienced being part of this queer and Christian group?
Yeah, so I can't describe to you how many powerful things has happened to me. But what I can share is what happened to me recently. In fact, 2 days ago, I attended this workshop that was facilitated by one of our members, actually, also here. Shout out to you, Dav. Then that workshop was talking on about LGBTQ traumas regarding their conversion therapy. I mean, all the conversation that I'm hearing, I literally had orgasm in my ears. I love the knowledge and wisdom I've learned in that 1 or 2 hours. So just so grateful. But what was most powerful thing that I have experienced in that group was there's this couple, straight couple, and I ended up pairing up with them. And they shared to me why they're there. So they told me that, you know, we came here to this group because we wanted to support our brothers, our queer brothers and sisters. And we also want to learn things that we might do to contribute to the issue. And I will never forget when I was listening to them, I started to cry and I don't understand why. And I told them, I'm sorry, I don't know what's happening to me, but it just hit me. For so long, my entire life, I was trying my best to avoid you guys, avoid straight people, because for so long, I was afraid to be hurt again, over and over again, to be ridiculed and unaccepted. And I know at that moment, I realized so many of us are going through the same thing. And for me to experience you guys, these two happen to be believers as well. You guys come to this group not only to be curious, but to support us. I felt like you are the mother and father and the brother and the sister I never had. And I wish our entire community need to hear this. And we started to cry. And they told me that, you know what? There's more people like us in this church. Welcome home. And you know what? This was the beginning. This is only the beginning. This is only the gist of what's yet to come, to experience. And I can't wait for it to start. And it's only 5 months. And it's all because of God. Thank you.
I'm so looking forward to you. Nam, the world needs you as a preacher. You're amazing. There is another question for you from the community. So thank you so much. What's different about OakLife compared to Hillsong that you like?
Damn it, the connection. Technology! Oh, God. Jesus, take the wheel. What did you say? Sorry.
I'll put it in the chat too. What's different
Oh,
about
yeah. Why don't
OakLife
you,
compared
why
to
don't you
Hillsong?
put it in the chat? Kenji question for Nam. Nam, what is different about OakLife compared to Hillsong that you like? Well, first of all, let me just tell you something. On Sunday, last Sunday on the sermon, I just saw the leader, Chris, a cis straight man who not only speak about LGBTQ matters, issues, but allows the space for our kind to be heard, to be seen. I've never seen something like this. And I was jaw-dropping. I keep commenting and texting, wow, I've never seen like this. Is this for real? Are you guys, am I in a, in a hidden camera or something? I kid you not, I've never experienced something like this. And I'm so excited. And you know what? Because of that, because of the leader who is straight, male, white, basically the on the top chain of our society, right? Gave people like us the platform. I feel like I can trust straight people again, and I can fully be myself around people that started that, I don't want to say hatred, but confusion, I guess. So all I'm saying is that because of God gave me that opportunity to look at this differently, to change my mindset towards straight people, because there are good, kind-hearted straight people out there who actually support us.
You know, I think it's important for me to interject and thank you for this. You are so, you're like lifting up me this evening. Fantastic.
Sorry,
job
I had to yell because I don't know.
No, that's all right. Don't sweat it, buddy, man. We're loving you. Everybody's loving you. Everybody always does. What folks don't know is Nam has told the personal story of what it meant to be gay bashed in really bad ways. So that Nam is here and so passionate is a miracle. Thank you, Nam. You're gorgeous. We love you. And I'll pass it back to my co-facilitator, Say.
Thank you, Nam. That was beautiful. We got tons of hearts in the chat for you, Nam, from Tim Kim, Yiming Chen, and we got Stephanie saying welcome home. And of course, Cameron and I gave you shout outs for the eargasms. We love you. You're such a gift to our community. That's what Deb says. These comments are awesome. Everybody keep them coming. And I want to say, Nam, I can't believe we looked so straight to you when you first arrived, because I think that's the antithesis of our group. But that's okay. If that's how you think we look, that's all good. It's fine. I want to give a quick shout out to Henry for joining, and Becca and Rasha here from Oakland. They're here to cheer on Jenna. We love you, Jenna. And anybody else who just joined, feel free to put it in the chat, your name and where you're from. We'll give you a quick shout out. And with that, I'm going to introduce our next speaker, who's getting a lot of love, Jenna, who goes by she, her, hers pronouns. She identifies as a queer, more specifically lesbian, cisgendered woman. She grew up in the Bay Area, spending most of her time studying and playing sports. That's fun. She is a mental health professional who loves to spend her free time in the great outdoors with pals. Jenna started attending OakLife and the LGBTQ plus small group about a year ago. So with that, here's Jen. And if you have any questions for Jenna, oh my God. I had to introduce Jen and Jenna. Man, that's okay. I can do this. It's one more letter. Okay. Jenna, if you have any questions for Jenna, please put them in the chat. And with that, Jenna, you are up. Thank you.
Thank you, Say. And thank you, Jen and Nam, for sharing. Both of your stories were so powerful. And thank you all for the opportunity to share part of mine. So I was raised Catholic. I went to Mass every Sunday. It also was a large part of my family's culture and identity. I also went to a conservative Christian youth group growing up, which had some pretty explicit messaging about homosexuality being a sin and purity culture and gender roles and the whole 9 yards. So that's my backdrop, which I have some qualms about now, but my faith has always been very important to me ever since I can remember. So I first started to realize that I was attracted to girls in high school, but I never would have even admitted that to myself, let alone aloud, for many years after that, even though my actions sometimes said otherwise. I wasn't even effectively burying my sexuality. I was just really controlling the narrative about it by being secretive and a lot of denial within my own self and head. I was scared of rejection and felt a tremendous amount of guilt and shame. So I sort of just disconnected from myself and my body, some really serious compartmentalization, in an attempt to deal with this cognitive dissonance that I was feeling, that I was both attracted to girls and thought that God viewed it as wrong. When I went to college, I was really looking for a clean slate. I ended up getting very involved in a Christian fellowship on campus. And really threw myself into this Jesus girl identity. The particular fellowship had some really good and beautiful aspects to it, but it was pretty conservative culture and reinforced some harmful messaging for me. As personally as a human, I love to know what exactly the expectations are so that I can meet them and succeed and feel accepted, etc. So I learned all the rules. And it was really nice to have a way to find the answers. I think it helped me to feel like I had some aspect of control because internally I felt so incredibly out of control. But what I didn't realize at the time was that the Bible was being interpreted through a particular lens or grid with particular cultural biases, ideas, wants, and desires placed upon it. I was really trying to master my faith by learning all the answers, which is a funny idea to me now, because what ended up happening was that I saw God in a very small and reliable way. And that sort of worked for me for a while. But then I went to grad school and started learning so much about the world and social justice, and my faith started to really feel irrelevant to me. It felt like a club of people who were all the same and thought the same things and only accepted people who are the same, which is in direct contrast to who I believe Jesus to be. Oh, and a side note, I was starting to realize that I was in love with a girl at this point, and trying to figure out what that meant for me. So I got to this place where my faith started to feel like a paper house. It held some structure for me, but I didn't think it would withstand anything difficult, namely my questions and my doubts. And so this was a big turning point for me. I had to get to a point where I realized that this version of faith just wasn't working for me. But I think that the bigger piece for me was that I realized that I was starting to no longer believe that how God felt about me was dependent on what I thought in my head. That I believed God was bigger than that, bigger than essentially needing me to get all of my thoughts and ideas right. I think he's big enough for our questions and even our misconceptions, whatever those may be. This new idea gave me the freedom to start to push on those paper walls and ask hard questions and be okay with not knowing the answers. So I started to try to merge my worlds by thinking about social justice and systemic racism and oppression within the context of faith and vice versa. And I had the gift and joy of doing this within a community of little rebel Jesus followers who really loved me. So through this practice, I began to imagine a new way, where I could wrestle with my faith in the world and show up as my authentic self and be loved, which was kind of revolutionary for me. So I was sort of in the throes of doing this work, and then I had this spiritual encounter where I felt like God told me to tell a particular person about my sexuality. I know it's a little woo-woo, I agree. It was really dramatic. I was on a run and it was raining. Anyway, so I did, and I said aloud for the first time that I had been intimate with women. And it was more of a confession at the time of behavior than anything else. And this friend was really wonderful and created a safe space for me, and also asked me in response if I was gay, which I quickly responded, no. I was truly so surprised that she asked me that. It's a lot of denial going on. But she encouraged me to sit before God with it. which was something that I had not even fathomed. I'd spent years crying and pleading with God to change me with no avail, but had never sat before him as I am or to ask what he thought about me. Which is funny because if I believe in an all-knowing God, like, did I really think I was tricking him? I don't know. This started a process of me really trying to get to know myself. I told another friend and had a standing weekly appointment for months on her gray couch trying to figure out if I was gay or if I just hadn't met the right guy yet. I also just started reading and listening to podcasts on the intersectionality of faith and queerness. I started watching the show The L Word. I just really started to try to understand this culture and piece of my identity that I had actively avoided due to fear for so long. During this process, I started to find really beautiful, affirming theology and following queer pastors, and began to realize that this was possible and that people are doing it. And I started to imagine a world and a reality that I didn't have to concede on either my faith or my identity as a queer person, and could hold both those truths at the same time. So then I moved to Oakland, and I found OakLife through a classic LGBTQ plus affirming church Google search. And I joined this wonderful group, which is so beautiful and vibrant, and a community that I love dearly. This group is one of the most tangible expressions of the gospel in my life right now, where I can see Christ in every single person. And I'm in a place where I'm leaning into my sexuality, my identity, and my faith all at once, and believing in a God story that is big enough for everyone to be included. Okay, I'm done.
Great job. Thank you so much, Jenna. I, like you, also Googled LGBTQ plus affirming church and found a directory and found OakLife that way. So I hear you on that. Great job. We got lots of love for you in the chat, Jenna. We got Maria saying the Trinity, which is very exciting. Stephanie saying preach, Jenna. Chris saying well said, Jenna. Yaming, so good. Rasha saying, you go, Jenna. And Deb saying, I love that so much. Cameron, thank you, Jenna. So awesome. Thanks for all that love, everyone. All right. I have a question for you from Super Tashi Washi. Nice name. I like that. Jenna, as a healthcare provider, is there anything I can say or do for my patients to make them feel comfortable to talk about this? Good question.
I think I just always am an advocate for creating a non-judgmental space, like whatever that means, so that people can show up as themselves without the fear of a reaction, and just like normalizing that everyone is different and they have like different needs and ideas. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, we got one last question for you before we let you go, and that is, what is something that you're personally doing to undo harmful messaging you've received from the church or society about your identity?
Yeah, great question. I think for me, like the work is really about integration. Like I spent so much time like compartmentalizing and just denying and not trusting myself that like, one, I just like internally have to be more conscious of like, I just tend to hyper intellectualize and like ignore my feelings. So like trying to honor all of those things within me. And then also just like showing up authentically as myself in all spaces. Like, you don't think that always means like sharing all of me all the time. I think that like boundaries are important and good. But I like am conscious of not abandoning myself in different spaces.
That's great. Thank you. All right, we're going to squeeze in a super fast question from Eve from Oakland, or Yiming Chen. Where do you go camping, Jenna?
Oh, great questions. I will send you a list, Eve. Namely Taco.
Awesome. Cool. And with that, thank you, Jenna. One last round of applause. And we'll hand it over to Ken to introduce our final speaker.
Sweet. Thanks, Jenna. You're such an inspiration. So Eric is our final speaker. Best for last. No, kidding. Eric goes by he, him pronouns. He grew up in a close-knit immigrant church in the East Bay. While he knew he was gay from a really young age, it took many years, including 5 years of living in North Carolina, to affirm his own queerness. Eric joined OakLife Church a couple of years ago, and he's been helping facilitate our small group for a little more than a year. It's one of his joys in life, as he's passionate about community empowerment and healing the injustices the church has done to queer people in the past. Welcome, Eric. Take it away.
Thank you, Kenji. I will say that I'm kind of happy that I got to hear you all go, because it really like loosened me up, and like just got me thinking about like just our collective journeys as a group. So different yet so amazing that we're meeting here at this point. I want to thank everyone in the chat for staying up this late and listening to all of us ramble on. So we love you. Like Kenji said, I grew up in a really, really close-knit immigrant church. The kind of church where all the aunties and uncles like knew everything about all the kids, and like we would eat lunch after church, and I would spend like all of Sundays just sitting there doing like homework and not doing homework, and so it was the world to me. And like honestly, it was the safest place to me, because as an immigrant too, like school can kind of be scary sometimes. So I would go to church and feel like, this is my community, this is where I'm safe, and God protects us. God is the one who like has our community in the palm of God's hands. And so you can imagine how difficult and how much cognitive dissonance it caused me when I think I realized pretty young that my church did not believe that it was okay to be gay, and it was this like dreaded silent thing. Like every time like a gay actor would come on TV, like once every like 10 movies, like Gandalf, my mom would like she would like be quiet and like it was just this kind of like the person you would never talk about. And in middle school, I had already realized I was gay. I was like, am I that person? And so I kept it to myself. And I remember in Sunday school, every time like homosexuality would come up, I would like freeze up and like not know what to do. I remember one time after small group, our leader asked everyone to put their heads down and raise your hand if you thought being homosexuality was not a choice. And I remember being like, well, I know what the right answer here, but I can't answer the way that I want to answer, because I don't want to be singled out. And so that's kind of how it was for many years for me. I kind of got to this place where I was like, well, I need to do the right thing, because God will take care of me if I do the right thing, even if it's like not good for me and it doesn't feel right. Still, I will push all these feelings down and pursue singleness and deny this part of me. And so I pretty much lived the first 21 years of my life saying that maybe I'm same-sex attracted, but I'm not gay. I'm going to push myself away from that label. And it was not until the summer of 2016 when I was working at a very, very conservative missions organization, Orlando, 2015 in Orlando, Florida, that I started to ask myself the big question. And I was in Orlando, and it was a Sunday, I remember, and in whispers, I started hearing people talking about this shooting that happened, and in a nightclub, at a gay nightclub in Orlando. And I was with a bunch of Christians, and I just remember the things they were saying, like, it's so sad that these people never got to know God and therefore are not going to spend eternity with God, things like that. And I remember thinking to myself, how can they say these things of these people? First of all, how can you assume that someone who's gay doesn't know God? I know God, and are you saying that I'm not one of them? And why am I not one of them? And the other question I began asking myself was, like, all these people, they probably had pushed away gay people in their life, maybe not directly but indirectly, through the things that they would say, like the things I would hear at family, at church. And as a gay person, I knew, like, what people would say. And I was like, well, how can you say that these people don't know God when the image of God that you've given them over and over again is a God that doesn't love them? And that's not fair. That's unfair to say, to condemn somebody for something that's actually your fault, the church's fault. And I don't want to use the fault too heavily here, because I understand it's not an individual person, and I want to be kind to our past selves, because I was once the person who also believed those things, and I want to be kind to that part of me. But I also, like, this just started making me ask a bunch of questions. And when I brought these questions to my community, I did not get the answers I was looking for. They started saying that me asking these questions is me leading people astray and myself astray, that by asking these questions, God would be far away from me. When I started, like, opening up to people that I was gay and that I was affirming, I, like, got people would, like, stop eating and it would just be silent. And then they would say, like, with their heads bowed, like, I think that you should not be thinking these things. God doesn't like them. And that was the end of the conversation. I would get frozen up on. No one would actually listen to my questions and take them and, like, take them for what they were and journey with me. I remember that my campus minister in college told me that maybe I should consider not continuing to lead Bible study. And it was these subtle things that made me feel further and further away from community. And not only community, but even myself. I was like, while asking these questions, I was scared. It was like there are two parts of me. So I would, like, wake up in the morning and I would be like, maybe it is okay to be gay and to date, and that that part of me is good and beautiful. And then 1 hour later, 10 minutes later, I would be like, no, but I can't think that. I can't think that. And it felt like this war where I was teetering on a fence. Any second I could be, wrong. And what would God do to me if I was wrong? But then I remember that God that I grew up with, the one I told you, who, like, protected my community at all costs. And I was like, this God that I learned about growing up, the two things I learned about God was that God was all good and all loving. And I was like, if God was all loving, would God set me up for failure, put me in a position to not thrive, put me in a position where I felt like I was going to be condemned if I did something wrong? If God was all loving, wouldn't God love me no matter what questions I asked? And that was when I realized those things that I had learned, which ironically, those people who were kind of not listening to me were preaching, at Bible study, which I was no longer leading. Those things, I actually believe those things, but it was my choice to actually believe those things in a way that also were true to this journey of mine. And so I clung on to that. I clung to the fact that God was good and loving, and it required me to step out and not bring some people along. And so when I look back at that, it was really hard. And I really don't know how someone who grew up in the environment I did got to where I'm at. And sometimes I'm amazed thinking about it. But I think the thing is a witness to the fact that God did journey with me. God did journey with me in that faith that I had, that God was all good and that God was all loving. Even if those people who were saying that God was all good and all was loving weren't showing that to me. And to those people, I want to say that I love you, but I will also hope that who I am right now and the story I'm telling is a witness to you that God did journey with me. and that, you know, you can see that God is all good and God is all loving, because God has been here for me and has given me this amazing community. God is the God of queer people. All the queer people you've heard from tonight, all the queer people that are very much in love with God and very much protected by God, and that God will see through. And so I want to thank everyone who has been there for me on that journey. And yeah, turn it back to Kenji. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share.
Eric, yeah, we know that God is all loving because you're here and you came here and you've done such an amazing job of leading this group. You're a great facilitator. You're a super conscious, wonderful guy. Thank you so much for speaking. And I have two questions. One of them is just, you know, a jab. But so the first question is pretty simple. What does this small group community mean to you?
I know this was the question that I wanted to be asked. It's really hard to describe. You know, I think, so I joined a small group and kind of was given the opportunity at some point to help facilitate, and I didn't know if I would have the energy for it, but I kind of reached out to several people and say, hey, we're gonna do something different. We're gonna co-facilitate. We're gonna have many different people lead, and we're gonna see what kind of church comes out of that. And really, that has been what our small group has been about. It's been a place where, like, you know, all that baggage we grew up with, you know, we get to do church in the way that is authentic to us now. And by us, I mean every single person here. Like, I think back to, like, the queer movement outside of the church and inside of the church. And it has always been this movement where we listen to one another, because I think being queer and being proud is about being yourself and being proud. And so I think this space is one where, in terms of who we are, it's about us. It's about what we bring and creating that queer church that looks the way that we need it to. And for me, that has been a blessing. And the last thing I want to say about that is, every time I'm overwhelmed because, you know, I don't know, like, I'm too busy to, like, think about what we're going to do this week. I feel like someone or some people step in a group. I don't even have to have anything prepared. And then something just happens. And I, like, leave the group and I'm like, what just happened? Like God is taking care of us, because what just happened at group, I when I let go of control, things happen. And so, yeah, like, I mean, this is one of the most important things to me in my life. And, like, I don't even know, like, what I'm going to be saying in 10, 20 years. So I just so grateful for everyone. Those in the comments, those here. Yeah.
Eric, you know, you're really preaching it and I love it. We're running a little short on time, but there are at least two questions for you.
I'll be short.
Yeah, the first one is, do you remember the emotions and feelings that day when you made that turning point from side B to side A? What was that day like for you?
Yeah, I remember. I think what happened was, my friend who was queer and Christian and affirming turned to me and was being like, if it really came down to it, what do you think? And I just kind of remember being like, I'm just going to say yes and, like, see what happens. And I think that's been a big theme for me. It's like, sometimes you don't actually know if you know, but you make the step forward because it feels right. And with every step, you know more that you know. And so it just felt like any other day, but it was kind of like, I'm gonna make this really tiny, felt like a really tiny decision to say, no, I think it's okay to be gay, that God loves me. Yeah.
Wow, Eric. Oh my God. From Tim Kim, what advice do you have for queer folks who are struggling with voicing questions that people don't want to hear?
Yeah. Hi, Tim, by the way. I think if there is a person in your life who you know is a good listener, because I had a lot of people in my life who actually the first like 20, 30 people I came out with all believed the similarly, like that, you know, non-affirming stance. But there were some folks who didn't respond immediately just with the stance. They actually listened to me talk and they let me talk. So I would say it's better if, you know, they're not non-affirming, but regardless, are there people in your life who are just going to listen and let you process? Because those are the people who are going to allow you to talk to yourself as well. And sometimes it just takes, you know, being able to say things out loud and having someone allow you to do that. Yeah.
Thank you, Eric.
Thanks.
Oh my God. You're such an amazing facilitator and such an and it's a joy and privilege to be part of the group and to have found out from you. Like Nam, me too. Hey, so take us away.
Yeah, I thought we'd end with a really quick, just 1 or 2 word answer. Like, what are your hopes and dreams for the future of the church? And anyone in the StreamYard can answer this question, but just 3 to 5 words. Anybody want to chime in?
Let's meet in person after this pandemic. I said, let's meet in person and just give ourselves a huge hug after this pandemic is over, because I need this interaction.
Yeah. If I could say it in 1 word, Nam summed it up as like unconditional love and acceptance. So everybody give yourself a quick hug as we close. Thank you so much for joining us. Lots of love, lots of acceptance to all of you. And I put in the chat how you can get in touch with us, learn more about us, and join our small group. It's www.oaklifechurch.com. So thanks again, everyone. Big hug to all of you. Take care. God bless and happy Pride, y'all. All in one sentence. God bless and happy Pride. Woohoo! Okay. Bye, everyone. Thank you for joining us.